Oh, that's just me again, trying to like
Yes.
create an answer, which I can't help it, but yeah.
It'll be interesting for this little one being inside you to come out being the first time here.
Yeah.
I think
Be
that'll
interested
be
to
very
see,
interesting.
because my other daughter's apparently been here 5 times, and we've been together once on another planet. But that was actually what I had in a reading, of course. But it'll be interesting to see the difference and see, like, I've been told she's going to do this one's going to be very like more timid because it's her first time, and she's kind of just like, so it'll be interesting to see if some of that stuff's accurate, but I'm grateful she picked me to help her here. So yeah, it'd be really cool.
Yeah. That's the amazing part.
Yeah.
Is a being that decides to come onto this planet for the first time.
Yeah.
That's a big deal.
It is. Gosh. Hey everybody, welcome to RealLaurenLive. I've got Yael with me, Yael Green, and she is the founder of the Water Matrix. And we're gonna be talking about like water. She's a water technologist and energy practitioner. And so I am super excited to talk about this because I've never talked about anything like this on the show. And I'm sure it's gonna be a lot of new information for the listeners. So thank you for joining me.
Thank you.
Yeah. So I'm just going to hand it over to you right away because we have so much to talk about. Who are you? Where do you come from? How did you get into this specialized area?
So where did I come from? I'll just, on the planet, grew up in Los Angeles, but my history, my, origin story, the awakening story, that piece, basically I'm a hybrid, and most of us all have pieces of different galactic origins in our DNA. Specifically for me, I was born, quote unquote, on a ship or created with ship energy, different than specific planetary energies, although I do have specific DNAs from specific planets, as well as future human DNA, which makes it easier to be in this physical body. I remember being dropped off on this planet. Wow. And so this is my first time here. Quite an experience on this planet for being the first time here. I generally meet many people I've been here for many lives, and this is close to the end of my time. So for being a first timer here on this planet, part of my work here, one is to create space and increase the frequency so that, and I've been here for quite a while in terms of linear years, but to create space so that other beings that are in higher frequency vibrations can start to enter the planet, which makes sense of where we are right now. Frequencies are increasing. We're speeding up in what we call time space, which obviously only exists in this 3-dimensional reality. And so that was the beginning of it, sending information back, because beings that haven't been to this planet before don't know what it's like to be in a body. It is not easy in many ways to be in a body. So there's a lot of information to see how do we work together with all the galactic beings, as well as helping what we're doing here on the planet. And so that information needs to be connected back and forth.
I see.
So that was the beginning, and what I did for quite a while. And now that things have been speeding up and there is more of an openness towards how do I reconnect with that piece of who I am off planet and bring that back into embodiment here on this planet, that's where the piece of water and being able to utilize energetic frequencies and neutrality what came into play. Wow. Because now it's actually a time people can accept it.
Wow, that's a lot. Okay, we could just spend the whole time talking about you and me and other people and where we come from. And, I always love to throw like this out there, like it's very woo woo and I love it all, but some people are probably like, what is she talking about? Like I've heard these terms, of course, but a lot of people are like coming from other planets. Like, what are you talking about? But I've been told, like, I've been here thousands of times, so different than you. But then, for instance, I'm pregnant right now and I had some readings and apparently this is the first time for this baby. So really interesting. It'll be interesting to see how she is. And so it's fascinating. But how did you remember that, just before we move on to like the water stuff, like how did you remember being dropped off, like when you were a kid or?
I always knew it. I spent a lot of time going back to that energetic ship being the father that I actually had on this planet that I came to this family with. He was part of that ship.
Okay.
When I was 12, he went back.
Wow.
So it's always been a knowing in my body. I always remember even, watching TV, having energetic beings come from that space and being able to like, energy doesn't really fit well in this body. Sometimes, when that's why there's all those weird memes of different, aliens sort of popping out of their skin because you can't fit that energy in this body. And I get it. It's like humanity's having a hard time trying to expand their energy and still feel safe and comfortable within the body and move around in the world. It's hard.
Yeah, it is hard to be here. And I always resonate with this, like Earth is like a school. It's one of the harder places to come. It's also quite amazing to experience emotions and it's beautiful here. I mean, parts are beautiful, but but it also feels a little bit like we're trapped and it's just like there's something else and I can't, like that veil, right? Like not everyone has the ability like you to. Well, we might have the ability. We just maybe we don't practice it. But some people like you, it comes through just naturally, right? So you're a little more open in that sense. But I don't know. I'm so drawn to it, and I feel frustrated sometimes. Like I feel like blocked. Like I know there's more, but I'm also just been like in this human place, and I feel like conditioned to just this is it.
Yes. Yes.
Now people are really, like you said, it's so cheesy to this term like awakening, but really I think people are like starting to awaken and the possibilities are endless, right?
Yeah, so. That's exactly it, is there's something else feeling. I think that's the first grip that comes back to you when people have been here for a long time, when they're connected with that karmic circle and doing the work of that karmic circle for this planet, which is not my job. I'm not here for that, but most humans are here to do that work of the karmic healing for this planet. So I sort of lend a little bit more like I can immediately step out and go into a plasmic state so that I can hold that higher vibrational state so that the people like there's something else and this work is challenging, that they can see themselves there. And then it allows them more expansion to transform into those places where they didn't think they could.
Do you, can you get like intuitive feelings on people, or are you more just getting into other realms and kind of connecting them?
Both at the same time, because as we together enter the plasmic state, which is a state of neutrality, 0 point frequency, we've got a lot of terms for it here. But as we enter, then that actually connects the two of us or the group or whatever I'm working with to all the information that's present, to the present of each other. And there's the line of like, okay, what are we coming in with in humanity? And then all of a sudden that sort of pops open for people. So,
wow. And do you have like guides that come through, or is it more just you're connecting to the energy?
Yeah, I know. And I know there's, everyone, channeling, I think that's great, but I also think no one needs channels. We don't need that. Yeah. It's a good gateway, but we all can connect in with that energy. So
like source energy, like a divine energy, would you call it that?
Yep. I think it's a hard thing to put into words, but yes. Okay. Like if all of us right now are thinking that, I guess it's the thing that, when people are doing plant medicines, things like that, they want to get to that place. Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Like there are different bridges. Like, I mean, I've worked with a lot of different mediums and psychics, and some go through, have guides, some tap into different things, and none of them are bad or good, but like you said, at the same time, I think we do have that like source energy within, and we can connect directly to it. But there are other ways as well to kind of tap into certain things.
Yes.
Very cool.
Yes.
Okay.
And I think that's what's happening now, is that humanity is seeing all the bridges that are possible. Yeah. And it's easy for me to be one of those bridges myself. Water is a easy bridge that, I find, because once you're in water, space-time goes away. You have no idea where you are in space and time once you're in water, because it is exactly what your body, specifically this physical body, is made of. 90% of our molecular structure is water.
Yeah, that's true.
So, yeah.
Wow. Okay. One more question before we dive into specifics of how you use water and what you do. But you kind of had given me a good segue into this. I always ask my guests, and it's, take as much time as you want or as little time. It's like dropping a bomb, but you alluded to it. I always like to hear everyone's like interpretation, just because it's so relevant of what's going on in the world. There's so much going on, and I always say this, it's repetitive, but like, yes, there's been stuff that's always happened in history. There's crazy, viruses and wars, and yes, there's always been chaos and good things. But right now it does feel, I've been on this planet, almost 38 years. It's never felt like this to me. It's chaotic. There's a lot of change. There's a lot of, fighting and just questioning what's true. And what is your interpretation? Do you think there is just so much coming in and we're trying to sort through it? Like what, some people think it's like old paradigms that are dying. And like, what is your interpretation of what's going on right now?
I love your interpretation, because you've been here for many, 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 many lifetimes. So you already have a history of that and a knowing that you're bringing forth into the conversation. And part of that, I encourage people to connect with that. That inner knowing is exactly what is happening on this planet right now. And just that process of, here's where I think it could be interpreted differently, is that when we've been asking outside of ourselves, that has been a calling to build community in a way that we didn't really know how to build community. And so we ask outside of ourselves, but really what we're asking is, are we all connected with this? As opposed to, I know what I'm feeling. You know exactly what you're feeling. You just said it right there. I don't even have to add anything of what's going on. You said it. Everyone else is having their experience of exactly what is happening, whether it is directly connected to the virus or a war or anything like that. Wherever they are in this specific reality, which is only just one dimension of reality that we're experiencing at the moment, it's how do I connect all the dots? Because we are this one being. So we're trying to find our way into, as a collective, to that one energy. I'm hoping that makes sense.
Yeah, no, it does. It's cool that you said it like that. I guess let me break it down, because that's what we do on podcasts. We're trying to do this in human terms, but it's like you said, to put words into certain things, it's like impossible, but that's what we do here.
Yeah.
It's like I'm having my own experience. You're having your own experience. Someone who might not agree with me on, again, whatever particular issue or whatever, wherever they're in their spiritual, path or whatever, their diet, that's their own experience and where they're at. And that's why it's helped me a lot to detach from emotions and anger, because I realize like they're on their path. I'm on mine. No one's right. That's where they are. Right. So there's that, but there is still a collective experience as well. Like you and me both know, I'm just using this because it's relevant. Like, recent, COVID was around. It happened. You and me both experienced that collectively, but I might have different interpretations or experiences than you. So it's individual, and you kind of have to like look within, but then also it is a collective shared experience. I think there's a lot of trauma. There's a lot of healing at the same time going on. So it impacts us. And it's a lot. It feels heavy. And I think if, I consider myself to be pretty empathetic, it can be a really heavy time. But also I feel like there's so much opportunity. And so I guess I'm feeling kind of like, I've heard this from other people and it resonates, but I also feel it inside. Like, there are a lot of things that aren't working here. And I think it's time for some changes, getting back to more of the roots, getting back to being outside more, water. Maybe we're growing our own food, or we help people that grow food. Just the system is such a mess. And so that's kind of my interpretation. I'm just speaking from my experience, but it's collective, but it's also individual.
Correct.
Okay.
And there's been systems don't always work when we're not able to have the connection to those systems. The reason why we're participating in that system be coming from a sovereign place within us. And that's the hitch that's happened, is that sovereignty has been lost in this conversation.
That's true. Can you explain what that means? Some people may not really understand what that means. Yeah. Sovereignty,
Yep. And everyone's coming at this from a different space and time, because the programming, which is what we call it, when we're trying to sort of shed the layers to see our inner truth, which is always connected to that highest self. We're all in the process of that. And so some of us feel a bit more confident in putting forth our opinions, our truths. And truth even has, concentric circles around it of where people lie on truth and different issues. And so we're moving along that spectrum of that wave of, I can see that there's a system, but I also don't have to participate in that system, nor do I have to break it down, nor do I have to create my own new system to be seen. And I think we're at the place of okay, what if I create the movement matters? And I know this going to upset people, but we don't need that either. We don't need to be seen in that way either. We need to be seen as our individual truth, that we're participating in this entire collective experiment, and that is honored. And that is our collective. That is how we connect to each other, versus finding these groups and creating new movements, because that just cycles into the new things.
Oh, I really love this conversation. This is so great because, again, I love everyone's interpretation. This is great. I think we just feel a need as humans to have to if that's not working, then we have to create something else and fix it right now. Or you have to this is what's tricky though with being here. For instance, time, like you said, it's really just made that up for organizational purposes. Like our podcast, we're meeting at 11:30 just so we know when to do it. We need that here on Earth. But some of the systems, they work for a while and then they don't work, or they never really worked, but we just do it because it's what society does and tells us to do. So it's very confusing. And we won't get too deep into this, but it is tricky because there's certain things I think most of us would agree, violence or hurting someone's not right. So we have to have laws, but then it gets sticky because it's well then, it's tricky, but I do agree with you that we can have different truths, but also still meet. Maybe more, let's talk more about in the spiritual realm or diet or lifestyle. Those are easier because it's, you know what I mean? It's not so intense, death or murdering or something, but we can have different truths and that's okay. But it feels strange if someone doesn't have the same truth as you, right? Sometimes
we start to feel unsafe in that because we don't know where our place is.
Yes.
And when we let go of we have to find a place within the society to matter and to be important, that when I think about the energy and the ship energy or the galactic universal energy, that there's no places for anyone. I worked on many councils with portals in all of these other lifetimes, and there's no elections. All of a sudden, it's just you move into the space okay, you're the head of this, because it's those times, the synchronicity. I think that's the easiest way to say it for most people. When you move in time, space, and all of a sudden something is there that holds you. We become violent and unsafe because we don't feel held.
Yeah.
in moving through time space in this way. And that's okay. That's where we are.
And that's probably part of this, meant to be part of this experience here, right? To like kind of test us and make us grow, and really cool. Okay. I was going to ask one other thing before we closed, but I mean, that's fascinating. So, I know I was going to say in closing on this topic, just my like intuition just says, okay, like just give love then. Like all I can do if I don't want to fight somebody. So I'm just going to fill the space with love. And yeah, that sounds all like hippy dippy, but like really, is that something kind of your advice? Like, I mean, if you're not going to agree with me on this topic and I'm not going to agree with you on that, like what's the best thing to do? I mean, just...
You could fill the space with violence or love. What's the difference? And energy doesn't actually know the difference between these things. Energy is neutral. We know that from science, even if we don't want to go to the woo-woo perspective. We know from science energy is neutral. That's in the books. So when we place these characteristics on things, that's when and this gets into sort of the geometric shaping of energy. That's how we shape energy. When we place these characteristics on it. Classic experiment with water with Emoto, put the words on it. And this was even before him, but these experiments were done. It changes the geometric structure with water. It changes any geometric structure, right? In our entire universe. And then when we ingest things like that, that changes the cellular matrix of our actual body and of actual cells and can cause disease or health. Wow.
That's cool. But so I guess, and again, it's like human, like trying to find an answer, but if you were to, sure, if energy is neutral, but then we could just like F it, then fine. Like I'm just gonna be like F you and fill it with violence. But isn't there something to like being able to find like neutrality or love or forgiveness for yourself and others? I guess, I mean, this could get too deep. Like karmically, you're just like, or do you just kind of look with it, what makes me feel better? Like I'd rather fill it with love than hate. I don't know. Is there, I'm not trying to make like there's just an answer for it, but I guess we have a choice and maybe.
That's the answer. You've got a choice.
Yeah. And it's your choice what you want to put within it. And then you can interpret that if that's you growing or whatever, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
And that's the thing that beings that are not on this planet are trying, obviously we have a choice. That's why we're here in the human body to make the choices. That's our sovereignty.
And maybe if you don't choose love over and over, you might get stuck for longer, perhaps, or something. I don't know. I mean, I don't know. That's just me again, trying to create an answer, which I can't help it. But, yeah.
It'll be interesting for this little one being inside you to come out being the first time here.
Yeah.
I think that'll be very interesting.
Because my other daughter's apparently been here 5 times, and we've been together once on another planet. But that was actually what I had in a reading, of course. But it'd be interesting to see the difference and see, like, I've been told this one's going to be very, like, more timid because it's her first time. And she's kind of just like, so it'd be interesting to see if some of that stuff's accurate, But I'm grateful she picked me to help her here. So, it'd be really cool.
Yeah. That's the amazing part.
Yeah.
Is a being that decides to come onto this planet for the first time. Yeah. That's a big deal.
It is. Gosh. Okay. Well, let's segue into water. So I was drinking my water. Now I'm like analyzing everything. One, before we get into like the energy and like the healing aspect, but, again, this could be a whole nother podcast episode, but we'll just try to condense it. What kind of water do you drink? Because we get, reverse osmosis. We don't have that in our home. So we actually order it, and it's not perfect, but at least, I have I've talked about this before in the podcast, a strong opinion on removing fluoride. So it's fluoride free, but then I know you can get into like trace mineral. We have to like supplement with trace minerals because then they're removed. So, what kind of water do you drink?
So we have RO water, but that's remineralized.
Okay.
Because obviously the RO strips everything in there.
Yep.
I mean, there are so many details that we can get into.
But just like a condensed, if you have advice for someone who's looking for a good, clean type of water, what would you recommend?
Spring water, structured. Spring water itself is structured. It, not everyone lives by springs, although there is a great map thing on the internet that you can look for springs. Yeah. But structuring it is one of the most important pieces because, and I say even before removing any of the contaminants. Would it be great if you could do all of it? Yes, but not everyone has access and not everyone can do that. But structured water, you can do very simply, or, buy something that's $500 to $2,000. It goes anywhere along the line. But what structured water does is, because water itself is a molecular structure that's breaks apart continuously, milliseconds. It's always making these connections. So it allows for change. That's why it has so many state changes. 64 anomalies in water molecule itself. So when you structure it, you allow it to create this hexagonal shape. That then starts to build on each other to create a place of where we house information. That structure is actually the cellular water, because water cells in themselves in our body have water inside and outside. That's what actually keeps the health of our body, is the inner and outer waters of the cells. So structured water, you can do that by actually just creating a vortex. It's vortex water. That's the simple piece of it.
Moving it.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep. So you could just do that at the very minimum. You could do that. They have machines that do that. They have, things that you can portable ones you can take with you. But just creating the vortex holds that. Okay. And then we can actually activate. I know it's an overused word, but UV light, sunlight, that's going to hold it. Technically, it should stay in its shape as long as it's not around anything that destructures it, like EMFs, things like that.
Yeah, which is hard to get away from, but yeah. As I have this right next to my laptop. Okay, so because it's not going to be a perfect system, we don't really have access to go get our well water, or stream water. But if I get this, my reverse osmosis water delivered, we fill up our pitcher, it's just sitting on our counter in the kitchen. At least one thing I could do, move into my glass or move it in the pitcher before I drink it.
Do it in the pitcher before, because then you can just create the vortex in it, and then it should stay.
And it's best before you're going to drink it.
Yes, and let it sit for a little bit.
Oh, okay. And then maybe go outside and have it sit in sunlight?
Yeah, or if you've got sunlight in the window. I know now, living in the Pacific Northwest for a little bit, sunlight is at a minimum.
The summer at least, yeah.
So, or like I bought a UV light since moving here.
Okay, you could put it on over the water.
Put it over there.
Just all the time?
Just give it a half an hour.
Oh, okay.
And then it'll structure it.
Okay.
That's a great time also to put your intentions in there. You can set it on a geometric structure or some sort of mandala that you're connecting with, or just what you're wanting to manifest. Because remember, water in this state is a crystalline structure.
So it absorbs what your energy.
Exactly.
That's really cool.
Hence, our bodies, when they are in balance, are also crystalline structures.
Because we have water in us. Yeah.
Exactly.
That's really cool. So what about when you're in water, like swimming in water? Could you also have intention? Okay.
Yeah. And so if I do work with people in water, we do some dialoguing before, and then we start moving in the water. And that movement starts to create a plasmic state that allows for the current matrix that's being held in the body to start to shift, right? Because when we're working with entropy, we have to disrupt that to create a new cycle, right? Basically what we're doing right now in the world, it's being disrupted so we can create a new cycle. But the disruption's good, right? I mean, you think of water disrupts things all the time to create new cycles. Why are there so many flood stories?
Right.
In creation? That was creation, the flood stories.
Interesting.
Every culture's got it.
So powerful. I mean, it gives us life. It can be calming. It can also, like tsunamis or storms and waves can be incredibly dangerous. So it's wild. Yeah.
It is wild, right? Water is wild. I mean, more than any other element, it just has so many different states and beings. It can be gentle. It can be powerful. It can move things. We've just forgotten what it is. We've put it in these pipes and sort of deadened the water.
So it's stagnant. Yeah. Just a couple more little fun things, because I don't have anyone to ask about this stuff. This is so cool. And it is such a big part of our life, because, we need it to survive, and we're drinking it all day. We're in it, showering, bathing, swimming. if you put things in your water, like mint or lemon, does that affect the structure?
Absolutely. Because remember, plants in themselves have their own structure. They have had their own experiences. There's plenty of experiments where we know that in a lab, they've had plants, and when there's been another plant that they've burned or something, that will affect the energetic imprint of another plant. So we want to make sure like we're imprinting all of our environment with what's happening. So imprinting is a really important concept to think about. Like, this is sort of going back to what we talked about before about the love and the violence. Like, what are we imprinting our structures with? What do you want to imprint your structure with?
So it would seem like lemon is pretty healing. That would be like a positive. I mean, I'm assuming it's good with your body. That goes into the whole other thing. Like if you don't feel good doing it, don't do it. But if you put a little bit of lemon in there sometimes, like that could be a really nice, like healthy, nurturing thing. Yeah.
And give it some specific intention before you put it in there.
Healing or immune system boosting or whatever you want to do.
Whatever it is for you.
Energy.
Yeah, whatever specifics.
Yeah, that's cool. Okay.
And it takes, and this doesn't have to be some long ritual or ceremony. It can literally be 2 seconds.
Yeah. It's always intention. Yep.
Yeah.
And then the last question on that too, before we get into like what you specifically do with the healing, salt water.
Great.
Okay. Most of our earth is obviously covered in salt water, and then we have fresh water. So what would the biggest difference be? And also I know like every medium that I've ever gone to is always says, do your Epsom salt soaks. What's going on with the salt and the healing?
Salt is a conduit for electricity. If we don't have enough salt physically in our own bodies, it's hard for the nervous system to conduct the electrical currents throughout our body.
Okay.
And especially when we're working with trauma houses itself in the reactions of the nervous system. So I do a lot of work with trauma with people because that's what's happening in the body as well. And when we're looking at neural pathways to the brain, which is that central computer that gets the information, if there's disconnections or it's having a difficult time going from the cell to the neural pathway, salt is going to and of course, I want to make sure that everyone in the world is not going to do it, because we want to make sure if you've got low blood pressure, there's things we want to watch out for.
Yeah.
So this is not like everyone go,
if you're
put salt in their water.
Level and healthy and don't have a medical, issue.
Yes. But it's great for that. It's
and
a
sea salt, not
energy.
table salt.
Correct.
Throw that out
too.
There. But
that's
so
true.
Soaking is beneficial because it's absorbing through your skin, but also I know some people pinch like Himalayan salt or cooking with it, obviously too. Can really add some benefits. Yeah.
It's a great flush in the morning. Do, your structured water, put some salt in there. You can also make like a whole thing of water with salt and just drop it in there, but put that in there and a little bit of lemon juice. Do your flush in the morning so that it can move through. It doesn't take that long, and then you can go about your day and have your whatever else you drink or eat.
Right. So fresh water, like swimming in fresh water, is really great, but also the salt water is extremely healing for like our nervous system. Yeah.
Yes.
That's really cool.
Yes.
I love that. Wow. Okay. So how in the heck did you get a download like, okay, water is how you're going to heal people?
I started in the water. It was like it was when I was teeny. I've always been in the water. Even now. So growing up by the beach, being in Portland for the last couple of years has been shocking to my system. Yeah. I honestly it's 2 hours from the beach and I can't find my way around the city for anything. For me, being by like the water is basically what calls me, and I understand how to get around places because of that energetic connection. It's just been the place where I meditate. I do everything there. I find that the medicine of water in all its forms, and even if it doesn't seem like it's like, we don't have to be directly in water. We don't have to be working with the medicine itself, but you'd be amazed at where it's everywhere, even when we're doing trauma work, like everywhere. And so it's been part of my plasmic understanding of how to move through the world.
Yeah.
I move through the world in a way of
You're
the water
attracted.
medicine.
Yeah. And I mean, I think not everybody, but a lot of people are very attracted to being by the water. Beach vacations, going, swimming and going by even just looking at a sunset over the water. Like, we're very attracted to being near water, which makes sense.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
Exactly.
And then also, like, you can get into all the crazy stuff with like, and I always tell my like non-woo-woo friends, and they're like, you're right, that is kind of true. Women's cycles have stuff with the moon and the gravity. The tides go in and out with the moon and the gravity. So there's so much energy that's beyond just what we can explain here on Earth. Planetary vibration, water, gravity, the moon, planets, like it's all connected. And so no wonder, like I don't sleep very well during the full moon. The tides change. Like it starts to kind of make sense. Like, whoa, we're all connected to this stuff.
Yeah. And you think about, we've only explored 1% of all of the oceans of the world. There are such depths of actual, beyond the light-filled part of the ocean, the depths of the darkness. There are beings and animals that live in that without light.
That's crazy.
And then below that, there's light. I mean, there's just such depths that we don't know in our physical body.
There's Atlantis that's buried. Throwing that in for fun, but yeah.
I mean, free diving has become so popular lately, so that you can sort of just hold the breath and be in the stillness of water as far as you can, because we want to be in that state of just complete oneness with the water, that's with really the environment.
Cool. Yeah. Wow, that's really cool. Are you an Aquarius, or do you have like Aquarius somewhere in your houses or anything? No. Yeah, you just love water. Yeah, I just thought I'd ask. Very cool. Okay, so if people are interested in this, you do one-on-one and group like healing with water?
I do. So I do guided journeying that can or cannot involve water. Okay. I find, I do a lot of transformational guide work that I work with people from like, I know there's something there. I know there's the next thing. I just don't know how to get there. And we will work together. Generally, I worked with someone for a number of times, and in these moments of transformation. And so I do those. I do water sessions themselves, which are physically in water. And then hopefully getting back to doing some water journeys now that people will be okay with traveling again in next year.
But you can do things like if someone doesn't live near you, like over Zoom, you could do some things too. Yeah.
I do plenty of Zoom journeying work with or without water, but basically it's holding transformational moments for people in where they didn't know who they could be or what they could get to. It's that edge of the precipice where people start to like, I want to get there and I don't know what it is.
You feel like blocked
Right. So it's easy for me to hold those spaces because I don't have the karmic density that most humanity has.
This is your first time. You haven't had all this like crazy crap weighing you down.
Exactly.
Wow. I was going to ask you something just for like personal, just for fun. I think I saw like a UFO or a ship. I actually filmed it like a couple weeks ago, but my husband's like super into all that kind of stuff, like the bubbles are, and like, we've had several guests on with ET stuff, and I don't know, it's like when they show themselves to you, is that just something like they're just being like, hey, like you're ready to see me or something, or?
I mean, I think it was in Seattle. That's
I was right above my deck.
So many lights there.
When it was like dusk, and I like went above the tree. But then I know it wasn't a satellite, or it was high up. I know it wasn't a satellite or a plane because it didn't just keep going. It went back, forth, forth. And then you can see it if you do in slow-mo. Right when I was about to stop recording, it like fizzled out. Yeah. It's probably like like one of the smaller ships or something. But I don't know. I think it might be.
And it could be also that the being that's within you is connecting to this energy. So having, holding that space. So, because it seems like this being is connected to that ship energy.
That's interesting.
So
that's cool.
I would sort of prepare for, a being that's extra sensitive and understands what it specifically is. So that's my take from that coming
cool.
to.
I just figured since you talked a little bit about space and other beings and stuff, because not everybody's into that, but
no, that's generally, I mean, besides, because usually they come, it's in larger open expanse areas.
And you know, multiple people can see it at the same time too, right?
Yeah, that's why I was like, was it in Seattle?
No, it was like right above my house in the suburbs.
I think you ask the little being inside you what if there's anything else they need from this. Was it information that they got from the ship?
Okay. Or like, what do I need to know from this or something? Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. Like, how can I help this? Is there space that you need to be in contact with this ship? Okay. That's what I would ask that being and see what comes.
Okay, cool. Thank you. I was actually going to ask you, have you heard of Sherry Wild?
No.
Okay. I had her on. She was abducted several times, but she talks about going on the ships. And so your story reminded me of her and just how she can remember all these things, and she chose her family because they were actually from there. I know that's like a tangent from this topic, but I do find it fascinating that more and more people are. Actually had a medium that told me like she was taken up and they took a biopsy of her arm, and I don't know. It just feels so crazy that people, or you know, you hear about people like walking around that are. This is like conspiracy, but like reptilians. That's just one of many that are here walking around on Earth. So I mean. It's fascinating to think that we are all like galactic beings, but we just, all we're ever told is we're just humans here.
Yeah. And I think hopefully I feel like if we could reword abduction, because
it sounds scary.
Not a bad thing. I mean, there is agreements that happen. These things don't just happen. Like, no one just gets abducted from without their will and without consent. Being an agreement happening. That there's some piece of intelligence, some piece of communication needs to happen. I mean, I've worked with people where they've come back, and when they were a child, they had implants, and we've helped remove those implants. So it's not like it's a terrible place being up there. It's actually pretty
do you
good.
Feel like do you come and go like in your like astral dreams or anything, or
just me walking on the planet? I don't even have to go into another state.
You are in and out, and we probably all are, right? We just don't know it. There's just not yet the capacity to hold that. And I think that's why the trauma work is coming into play, so that people can build up resonance and capacity within the physical vessel, because you can't go out and come back in without having the capacity to hold that new information. That's why, like, a lot of us have a veil, right? Because if I feel like I have intuition that will come in sometimes, and I'm like, I feel like I'm so connected. Like, I want this, I want to do this more. But then I also realize, like, kind of been told, like, if you started seeing beings or other things, like that might be so too much for you right now. You can't handle that. Or maybe in time when, you know, I feel like I'm growing babies and I'm so in this human physical, like I have to be able to do that because it's too triggering maybe. So different parts of our life, we might be more, you know.
Absolutely. Yeah. I think that's why anytime we go into regressions or in dream, it allows, the frontal cortex to turn off and go offline, so that can be an experience. That's why some people do plant medicine. It just becomes the subconscious experience to get to those places.
Vehicles that help us versus maybe if you don't, I'm just trying to explain this, like don't have a block or you're ready for it. You don't need those.
Right. Yeah. Right. That's why so many people are into crystals, right? I mean, they've always been like, it's such a tool right now. Like what tools and vehicles can we use? I mean, ancient times, there was the Merkaba that, geometric structures, those are all vehicles and channels to be able to go to those dimensions and understand the energies. Okay. And so the more we sort of clear out the traumas from the physical vessel, it can hold more energetic awarenesses when you come back with the information.
Very cool. And so like, isn't pretty much most things in nature geometrical, like water, crystals or rocks, so they hold the energy, plants.
Everything is, even the fake structure that we're sitting around that we call a house that seems permanent. This is all moving geometric structures.
That's cool. Think like your table even, or even if it's man-made material.
It's still a molecular structure that has an energy that's moving. It's a very, very slow speed. That's why we can't see it. And our nervous system and our brain has put a picture in it of a desk.
Right.
Or a picture. So these are part of like the programmings. And when you're able to go beyond like, this may not be a desk, which is what some of hallucinogenics and psychogenics do, like, oh, it starts to break apart because that's what it actually is. So it opens the brain to be able to remove some of those patterns.
Can you feel energy in items and things?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I'm much more kinesthetic. That's in this body. I'm kinesthetic.
Yeah,
definitely.
That's really
all of it is possible for everyone. There's no special beings that have more power than others.
It's just some are in different places. It's just mind deaf though, it's like, and that's been part of my awakening. I just feel like everything feels so like it's like an illusion. Like
that's exactly is, which is why you could change it to whatever you'd like it to be once you break free from the particular square or circle that you've created it in your mind with, or the society has placed it in your mind with. Even so far as like a family looks like this,
right?
Or like it's everything. It's created our structure. So how do we break apart our structure? And that's what people are doing now. Like it's a good thing that
it's actually what we're doing with this whole. But we get lost in it though, like the whole.
It's okay.
Non-binary, pronouns. Sure. Like it doesn't have to just be he, she anymore, but at the same time, it doesn't have to be all these other things. It's just, we just are. That's it. Right.
That is exactly
but everyone's fighting about.
Yes.
And then I get offended.
Yes.
I figure just tell me your name. That's what I say in a respectful manner. I don't care what people want to go by, but just tell, who are you? It doesn't really matter. Does it? And I feel like we're like trying to box it up again.
Right.
It's fascinating.
And the fact is like, it has to go in stages and it has to go slow. So
that's our way of breaking apart but then we're still creating another box almost in a way.
And hopefully it's a little looser box, and hopefully it has holes in it that we can see through.
Yes. It's interesting. So. That's true. That's what's happening, I think, for sure right now with a lot of areas. Well, it's good that we're questioning. But I think, it's just good to remind myself and others, like, also we don't have to like fight about it. It's just, we're just thinking about it and trying new things. And
people fight about it because it's really uncomfortable. And it's too uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And there's no one to hold that for someone.
And it's new. Like, right, when I was a kid, you just went by your name and you were a girl, you're a boy. You didn't really, that was it. So I'm not saying that's right or wrong. It's just new.
It makes people uncomfortable.
I don't want to say, they or whatever. Yeah. But then we're really all just here like souls. And it just, I don't know. It's fascinating.
Yeah. I mean, the more we can hold each other in that uncomfortableness and not judge, just hold it because it's uncomfortable. It's like things are breaking out of this physical body and that's uncomfortable. And so holding each other in that. And I think that's putting the love out there. Like, yeah, I'm holding you in this.
That's really cool.
I don't need to do anything, but I'm just holding you for it. That's it.
Oh, I really like that. That's such good. Yeah. Thank you. Wow. Well, I feel like we could chat all day. There's so much, but this might be kind of a perfect little, maybe we can do a part 2 one day, but I feel like this is a really nice, just hold the space for yourself and other people. And is there anything you want to add in just for anybody right now? Like whether it be with water, just like a few things we could do each day just to kind of like soothe ourselves and like open up more and just hold the space.
I think be as easy on yourself as you can in the moment without it being a project to be easy.
Sure.
Not making it another project. Really just allowing that to be, because it's going to change in another moment, that we don't have to attach ourselves so easily. Water doesn't attach itself to anything. It moves within water, silt, dirt, rocks. It doesn't attach itself to any form of being. It shifts its form as it needs to shift it.
That's true. Yeah.
And it doesn't, we have the emotions about things and it just moves. So the more we can be closer to that energy and feeling it, not everyone's been by water. There's many people that haven't ever been to the ocean.
Yeah.
But if there's even just listening to it every day, if you can't get to it, if you can't get your hands in it, even just having some bit of water that's in a dish that is sacred, that you're just holding there, any of that can bring you close to the characteristics of water, which is really what we want, to be able to flow and move through life that easily.
That's really cool. I love it. I know that's the biggest thing. I think one of the biggest lessons maybe here is just the attachment thing. It's really hard.
Yeah.
Because it naturally want to just like attach, but really if we just kind of, we could free ourselves from so much suffering if it's a practice.
Yeah.
Very cool. Wow. Well, I really loved our conversation.
Thank you.
And tell people where they can find you online.
Yep. The watermatrix.org, yaelgreen.com. They all go to the same place. I'm on Instagram as the Water Matrix, any of those places. And I'm always happy to just connect with people. Yeah. People know when they are ready to connect with me. They often say, I'm not sure I'm contacting you, but here I am.
Yeah.
That boosts me.
Awesome. Yeah. Very cool. Wow. Well, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody, for listening. I hope you enjoyed the show. I know you did. And you can find me on Instagram at RealLaurenLive and my website, lauren.live.